Hello, welcome back for some Arkham horror here. And one thing I wanted to say right away, I know I went through quite a lot of explanation for separating the 8 cards for each location from the clue cards, but one thing I forgot to point out is that the clue cards themselves, when you look at them on the bottom here, let me put this camera down so I can be a little more coordinated here. On the bottom, it says the scenario. So right there it says Approach of Azathoth. And of course that's the scenario we're doing. And so these are the scenario cards, and they all have backs for the various locations, and you can see I have them all shuffled together. And that's exactly what you're going to do. And when you put this game away or store it in whatever storage solution you come up with, I mean, you're going to keep these together. So these cards with the clue on the top are together, and they're going to have the scenario name here, and it even tells you there's 24 of them. That's what that 11 of 24. So if you're ever trying to figure out if you got all your components or whatever, that's how you do it. So there's 24 cards here. And then what you do is you put together this thing, and these cards go into here. And of course I'm doing this one-handed and making it look like a fool. But so the symbols on this just simply mean this is we're going to draw these cards whenever we have to place a clue on the board. And I actually can't remember what this, I mean, this is obviously these anomalies, right? But maybe when we're placing a random random anomaly maybe. And then if you look on the back, see there, that's a doom token, or a symbol, right where my finger is here. There's a doom symbol there. And so when you're drawing, putting a doom symbol on the board, I mean, obviously you're going to know that a clue is going to show up on the merchant district. So, because I'm going to draw this, and this will go into the merchant district, this clue card will go into the merchant district deck. But the doom comes from the back. So in this case, it would be the blue downtown area. And so this blue downtown area, we would draw this, we would reveal the card, and we would see here, there's a doom symbol. And try to get that focused a little better. So there's a doom symbol, and then we would put a doom symbol there. I know I'm jumping a little bit ahead rules-wise, but that's the purpose of this. The headline deck, which looks like the newspaper, you're going to shuffle the entire thing and draw 13 of them. And I think no matter what scenario you do, you're always drawing 13. And so in this situation, that's I think that's a constant, no matter what scenario. So obviously we drew 13 for this situation as well. And then of course you're going to put your components and just have them available. We still have to go through this. These are going to go into what's called the Mythos bag. And so we're going to be doing those. And I figured I would wait until we do the video, and we'll do that together. Whatever ones don't go in the bag, these are out of the game. So whatever's left over, we're not going to be using. So you can set them far away. And then everything else is just ready. Now this is the archive deck, and I may have explained to you that that you just keep them in numerical order. I sleeved everything except for this. My logic being, this is the archive deck. We're not going to be shuffling this. This you're supposed to keep in numerical order, and they come out, and these are going to give you, this is like the choose your own adventure. You're going to read the stories. There's going to be choices sometimes. There's going to be goals that you have to do. But I did sleeve these 5 cards because those have the city backs, and I didn't even bother reading them and what they do, but I guarantee you these are going to be shuffled into our location decks, and so I did sleeve those so they would be sleeved along with everything else. But these you just set aside for now, and you pull them out as you need to. Just think of these as like just I mean, they call it an archive, and that really is what it is. So at this moment, none of them are in the game, but we're going to get some very, very soon. Okay, so I picked the approach of Azathoth. And so this is the scenario that we're going to do. And you want to use this side to help you do the setup. Like I said, we have the clue cards for that scenario. And just to demonstrate, there's 3 more scenarios, and you can see that there's clue cards for each scenario. And so you can actually baggy those up, or however you're going to organize your stuff. These go together. So these clue cards only go with that scenario. These clue cards only go with that scenario. I hope that makes sense. So you can just set all those aside and put them away however you'd like. First thing we got to do is we set up our town. And I'm having focusing issues, but here we go. So you can see we're going to have north side, downtown, east town, etc. And then pay attention, because the streets that are in between, you can see these 2 are bridges. These ones are, I guess, you know, basically gas lights, gas lamps. And then you have 2 forest ones, okay? So you're going to want to set them up exactly as it shows. It is possible that, I know I played a scenario where there was only one pathway into this northwest corner, and then this one was missing. So that's what I did. I spared you the time of watching me do that. So I set everything up exactly as it's shown. And so then I also picked, we're going to do a 3-character game. And we could do a 1-character game. There's nothing wrong with that. Some of you might be wondering, well, what's the game mechanism that changes if the players change? And here's what's really interesting about this game. Only one, well, let me back it up. I'm going to word it in a way that's a little sneaky. Absolutely nothing changes when the player count changes. And so you might be thinking, well, hold on a second, how is that possible? And here's the thing. We're going to have this little draw bag for the Mythos cup. Remember, we still have to do this. We're going to create a Mythos cup. These cause monsters to spawn. They cause a lot of bad things to happen. Okay? They also drive the pace of the game. Every player is going to draw 2 out of the bag. And let's say there's 13 of these, or 14 of them in the bag. Well, you know, every player is going to draw 2, so that means after 7 draws, the bag is going to be emptied. And then after it's emptied, it gets refilled with those same 14 tokens, and you just keep going, and it just repeats itself. So if that bag had, you know, some monster spawns in it or some newspaper in it, remember the newspaper is one of the things that drives the speed of the game. So the more players you have in the game, the more of these you're drawing. If you have less players, you're drawing less of these. So the game speed changes solely by how many of these are being drawn during the Mythos Cup phase. So it's a very interesting mechanic. And as far as the rules go, nothing, and I repeat myself, nothing changes. The rules say it's 2 per player. So if you have less players, you're just drawing less of these. And that's it. So, very cool. I'm doing 3 players because I want to show you the differences between some of them. I also know that Marie Lambeau here is got some interesting rules with her. And we had to do a clarification with the designer. And that was the cool thing about being at Arkham Nights is we were able to clarify rules directly with FFG designers, and that it doesn't get any better than that. So Marie had a clarification, and I picked her because I want to explain it to those of you who might make the same mistake if you play as her. I picked Ashcan Pete because he doesn't even come with the game, so I figured you guys might want to see him. He's a promo character. And then I picked this guy here, Michael McGlynn, because he just shoots things. And I figured we might benefit from having somebody who can just, you know, kill the crap out of stuff. So, so that's what I did, and these 3 are going to work together. I can tell you that these 2 are support characters, and we don't really have a good spellcaster in our midst. That might be the one weakness. They do have roles that you can choose, and those roles are on the back of the cards. So, for example, his role is Survivor. So, you know, they sort of recommend, like, if you want to have a well-balanced party, you want to have different roles. You know, let's look at Mr. McGlynn here. you know, his primary role is rogue, and then the secondary role is guardian. That makes sense. He's the one that shoots things. And then we're gonna get Lambeau here. Mystic is her primary role. So actually she would be the closest you got to a spellcaster, and then Survivor is her second role. Anyways, we'll talk about more of them later. Let's continue with the setup. Now, you have all these location cards up here, and obviously you're only going to use the ones that are with the game. So first off, we have Easttown. So let's grab Easttown, and I'm just going to start putting them over here on the right. So here's our Easttown deck. Then we have Downtown and North Side. So I'm going to grab North Side and Downtown. And then we have Rivertown and Merchant District. So I'm going to grab the two of those. And obviously the rest is out of the game. So you can just shove them out of the game for now. 1 second, my son is here. You're welcome to play it. You just put it all away when you're done, okay? Okay, so sorry about that interruption. And, okay, so this card is very helpful. It tells you everything. So we're going to put Doom tokens out and the rogue figure. But before we do that, I recommend that you do the left side first. Even before you start putting stuff on over here. The first thing you got to do is you got to assemble your monster deck. There's a lot of monsters in this game, and you're going to spend a lot of time going through them to assemble these. FFG does give them to you in alphabetical order, and if you were careful with your sleeving and unpacking, you will keep them in alphabetical order. I wasn't so careful, so it was a lot more painful for me. Now, one of the things I want to point out is it says all Hound of Tindalos monsters. That actually confused people, and you can see there's a monster and it says Hound of Tindalos on it. And there's an actual monster whose name, it's in here somewhere, right here, Tindalos Alpha. See that? People thought that that was the only Tindalos that you had to add, and it's no. You got to really pay attention because there's other ones that say Hound of Tindalos in the smaller print. Like this Keening Hound here, it's a Hound of Tindalos monster, okay? So make sure you get all of them. I think I had 3 or 4 at least. It's not too hard. You just have to be very mindful about checking specifically for those. And anyways, long story short, this is our monster deck. It doesn't matter what's on top because you're always drawing from the bottom. And just so we know, we have rogue figures that are going to be starting in the game. See, there's 2 of them. And so if you were smarter than I am, you would have pulled those out before you shuffled it. So there's the 2. I'll just leave the rest as it is. Okay, then you can set those aside. And these rogue figures, I'm going to just set aside for now. Okay, so that is how you build your monster deck. Then we're going to do the Mythos Cup. So let's do that right now. So these are Doom symbols, these 3 here. So we're going to come in and let's find 3 Doom symbols. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to do 2. These are summon monster symbols. So we're going to grab 2 summon monsters. And then we have 2 clue. And these are going to cause clues to be generated throughout the city of Arkham. Those are actually good ones. 2 newspaper. The newspapers are really random, but these are the timer in the game, so you sort of don't want those. They're better than summoning monsters. This one is called a gate burst, and these are nasty. You don't want this. And there's 1 of those. And then this is, what's it called? Here, it's on this side. See, it's the symbol that, there's a name for it. Reckoning. Reckoning. That's the reckoning thing. So you're going to have like, when reckoning happens, when somebody draws this, if you have that symbol on your card, like for example, you could have a Dark Pact, and if you have a Dark Pact condition, see, this triggers, and you're gonna have to roll a die, and if you roll a 1, your Dark Pact payment is due, which is always something really, really nasty. So you never wanna roll a 1, but anytime somebody draws this, it's gonna trigger that to happen. And for this scenario, for every cultist monster, we're gonna place a doom in its space. And so this will happen every time somebody draws one of these. So that's sort of like a trigger for all kinds of various effects in the game to happen. It's a pretty neat mechanic. I actually think whoever came up with that was really brilliant. And then last but not least, the 3 blanks. So we're gonna grab 1, 2, 3 blanks, and the rest of these are out of the game, which isn't much, but they are out of the game. So we're gonna just set those way off to the side. And we're gonna grab our bag and put these in. I didn't count them. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wow, I guessed 14 when I was talking to you earlier. I didn't realize there actually were 14. So in a 3-player game, we're gonna draw 6 at a time. In a 1-player game, you draw 2 at a time. So I hope that gives you a sense for the whole pace of the game is driven by this Mythos Cup. Okay, and then we're gonna finalize setups. And it says add cards 2 and 3 to the codex. And then it says create the anomaly deck using temporal fissure cards. So let's talk about what those two. Let's do the temporal fissure one first. These are the 3 anomaly decks, and this is temporal fissure, and you can see it's written right here at the top. Those other 2 are out of the game, and they're used by the other scenarios. And as you may have guessed, there's expansion packs coming, and you're gonna get way more decks of these. But these are the ones, and we're gonna shuffle, 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 and we'll put them over here along with all of our other location decks. Now, normally you're going to draw a location card when you're at a particular location, but if there's an anomaly at your location, you're going to draw one of these, and these are never good. Well, they give you a challenge, let's put it that way. Okay, now it says 2 and 3. So what it means when it says add 2 and 3 to the codex, that's where you're going into the archive over here, and you're going to grab card number 2 and card number 3. All right, and we're going to read those shortly, and that's actually going to be what is going to give us the flavor for the scenario, and it's going to kick off the game. So we're going to have 2 things that are going to be impacting us for this game, and I'll read those in a second. So everything should be set up. That I understand, and then of course you have some stuff way up there at the top of my table that's out of the game. And we have our characters. We do have to get the rogue figures placed and the doom tokens out. And then on the front here, it says the starting space is the train station. So all of our players are going to start on the train station. So the train station is here on the north side, so we're gonna all start there. So I'm gonna do that, and then let's get these doom tokens placed and the rogue figures. So it says that the rogue figures is gonna be north here on the river town, that northernmost space, and then like the 1 to 2 o'clock of downtown. So if I look at Riverside here, that northern space is Black Cave. So we're going to put a rogue figure there. And then we're going to put one in Independence Square. Okay, one thing about monsters is, and I apologize, my camera's having issues focusing on the cards here. It says patrol. So he's going to move towards unstable space and engage the highest negotiation character. So monsters are going to have different AIs to them. One type is going to lurk, and what they do is they never try to go after you. they just do damage to you sitting where they are, or they cause doom to show up on the board. And so you have to actually hunt those lurkers down and get rid of them, or otherwise they just do nasty things, and they're totally content with hiding from you. So then there's hunters, and what they do is they pick a prey and they're chasing you all across the map. And then these ones are patrolling. So they're moving towards unstable space and trying to engage whoever has the most negotiation. So that's the thing there. And we can look up, like, what does unstable space mean? And unstable space is usually dictated by cards. Like when they spawn, you can look up what unstable space is, but I'm trying to figure out when it's their turn, what's an unstable space. And this is one of those things that those demo guys would just do because they knew it. Yeah, it's a space that changes over the course of the game. If there's one or more cards in the event card discard pile, it's the space with it's the top card of the discard pile. If there's no cards in the discard pile, then the starting space is the unstable space. Okay, so that makes sense. And again, apologize for the focusing issues there. Okay, so we did that. Now we need to put on the Doom tokens. So it shows there's a Doom in the Merchant District. Looks like a Doom goes everywhere. And they're basically the northernmost spot in all these places. That one's more 11 o'clock. And so is this one. But yeah, let's get a Doom out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so the first one is going to go here. And the second one there. And then one up there. And then one here. And one there. Okay. Setup is complete. One other thing we have to do for our own purposes is that we have to with our characters, they need to set up now. So let's look at our characters more closely. We have Marie Lambeau. Once per round, after you perform an action, another investigator on any space, doesn't matter where they are in the game, can perform the same action. All right, so let me explain to you real quick the rule that everybody's getting wrong when they do this. The rules state that you can never do the same action twice. So if you attack a monster and you fail to kill it, for your second action, you can't attack it again. Just not allowed. There's no attacking or doing an action twice. I think there is one character that lets you break that rule, but that's their special ability. So let's say you attacked a monster on your turn. Now it's her turn, and she attacks a monster, and then she wants to give you this ability, right? She did an attack, and now she wants another investigator to also attack a monster. She can't give it to you because you already attacked. And if she gave this action to you, you would be attacking twice in the same round, and you're not allowed. So even though she gives extra actions out to people, the action she gives out has to be something you didn't do on your turn. And if you've not taken your turn yet, that's great. She can give you the action, but then when it becomes your turn, you can't. So let's say she gives you the attack. You've not yet gone. Well, now that it becomes your turn, you're not allowed to attack. So, because you attacked while you were on her turn. I hope that makes sense. And it says normal action restrictions still apply. That's what this means, that little part in parentheses. Okay. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but another thing is this move action. And a rule that came up and the designers themselves clarified is this isn't Imperial Assault. So you're not allowed to interrupt your move, do another action, and then continue moving. A move is a full, complete action that you have to do from start to finish. And if you stop your move to do something else, like ward, then your move's over. You don't get to keep moving after you do another action, okay? And I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but while I was on the thought of what kind of rules were really tripping us up, I wanted to talk about that real quick. Okay, so the most important thing with her is, you know, that ability I think is pretty awesome. I think a lot of you are going to like that ability, and I happen to really like it. And you know, giving us an extra action, I think is going to be helpful, especially with a lower player count. So I think that's going to be very helpful. So she starts with Intervene, and that's going to be one of these cards that says Intervene. So we're getting this card. Once per round, while another investigator is on any spaces resolving a test, you may test your lore -1, and your test result gets added to the other investigator's test result. Oh, that's pretty cool. But look, you take 2 horror when you do that. So you need a way to get rid of horror if you're going to be doing a lot of that. So she gets that no matter what. She's getting $4. So let's get her some money. I like to use poker chips. So we're going to give her $4. And Witch Blood or Grand Mare's Knife. So we get to choose. This is the thing with the game. You start with 2 items, but you really only start with 1. So we got Witch Blood here. It's an action. You may perform an action you have already performed this round. You can allow another investigator to perform this action with your Smoky Velvet ability. Once per round, after you spend a remnant, you gain 1 remnant. Pretty interesting there. So you can get a remnant back. And then the knife is a magical weapon. You get +2 strength as part of an attack action, and you get +2 lore while casting a spell. This Intervene, by the way, is a spell. So if we're planning on doing a lot of this intervention, we can get +2 lore, and then also it makes us really good at attacking. This Witch Blood talent is the one that lets you do the same action twice in a round. And I just told you that there was somebody who could, and this is actually the character that can. So I don't know which one's more valuable, to be honest, but I'm going to choose the knife. I think this one I might actually use more frequently than the knife, but I think the knife is going to be most helpful. Like the times we use it, it's going to really help us. So this is out of the game. There's no way to get this. So once you make your choice, one of them's out of the game. So just set that aside. Okay, so Marie Lambeau is officially set up. And so we can get her in place and give her her abilities, and she's off and ready. Okay, so we're going to do that with the other 2 characters. I did just realize something. There's going to be 5 items. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're going to be available for purchase if you have an opportunity to purchase items. Unlike most other games, these items, you can't just purchase them whenever you want to. When you do an encounter, the counter card has to allow you to purchase them. It's a pretty interesting thing. So I'm going to try to find a spot on my table here to put them. And I think for now, we'll just put them up here. So we have a knife, an occult scripture, a rabbit's foot, a leather coat, and a dynamite. And I think we'll look at those closer as time when we need to. So pretty standard stuff. You're allowed to have unlimited items. I know that. The little hands that you see just means that how many you can use at once. So you're allowed to have a knife in one hand and then a occult scripture in the other when you're, using a skill or whatever. You can use so let's say you're using these to enhance your die roll or re-rolling dice. If it has a hand on it, you're only allowed to use 2 hands worth of items for one particular test or one particular thing that you're trying to do. I think that's the best way to describe it. Otherwise, you can have an infinite number of these. There's no inventory limit, okay? So now let's go to Ashcan here. So Ashcan, I'm just holding onto the camera here with one hand, has the scrounge ability. And After you perform a gather resources action, we haven't talked about the actions yet, you may gain an item worth $2 or less from the display. The display are these things up here. So we can just take an item that costs $2 or less without having to pay for them. That's pretty cool. All right, so his stats there are pretty average. His influence stinks, but everything else is 3. And let's see what he gets. He gets Duke. And Duke gives us +1 attack as part of, or +1 strength as part of an attack action. And when you perform a trade action, you may trade assets with any investigators in your neighborhood. I think you have to be in the same location, whereas this allows him to trade anywhere in the whole neighborhood. Remember, a neighborhood is all 3 locations. Normally, you can only trade in this location if that's where you are. He can trade with the other 2 locations as well. It's not super great. The big one is the +1 strength. And then we have to choose between Dark Dreams, which is when you draw a blank Mythos token, that's from the Mythos bag. Remember those blank tokens I said that were really good? You may suffer 1 horror, direct horror, to focus 1 skill of your choice and spawn a clue. Okay, that's interesting. I think I want the other one because I peeked ahead on this. The guitar. After you perform a gather resources action, which is the same action that we use for scrounging, and that gives us the free item up there. A number of investigators in your neighborhood equal to your handshake, which is the negotiation, may each recover 1 sanity or focus 1 skill of their choice. So they could heal a sanity, or they can get a free focus token, which is like a free action. I like this one. I think this is a nice supporting thing to do. His negotiation skill stinks though. It's a 1. So he only can help 1 other person, but we can get a focus for him. Because the other interesting thing about him is he can have 3, his focus limit is 3 here. So one of those could be influence. We can give him a focus on influence, so then he can help 2 people. And we're happen to play a 3-player game, so I thought that would be pretty cool. His strength, of course, might be another target for focus, but we can worry about that later. And of course, this is out. So I'm going to just set this aside, out of the game. Oh, and our leader, we're going to give our leader token to Marie here. And he's going to get one. And then let's go to Michael it's McGlenn. All right, so out for revenge. After you defeat a monster as part of an attack action, you recover 1 sanity or focus 1 skill of your choice. So, no, his sanity is really low. This guy might be trouble for us, but his strength is 4, so he's going to be definitely fighting McFighterson here. And let's see what kind of bonuses we're going to get with him. And, oh, I forgot to check. Mr. Ashcan gets $1. Not surprised there. Okay, so we're going to get $3. We get the Chicago typewriter. I'm willing to bet it's not used for typing. Yep. Okay, Chicago typewriter. You get +4 attack or +4 strength as part of an attack action. Holy cow. But see how this uses 2 hands? So that means if he had something else that uses 1 hand and also adds to his attack value, he has to make a choice. And this isn't one of those games where you have to decide at the start of your turn what you're equipped with. If you're doing an attack, he would just say, I'm going to use my Chicago typewriter. It's going to add 4 strength to his attack, and then he has to ignore the other ones that have hands. Now, if he has something that does not have hands, he can add as many of those as he wants. So that's what I'm trying to explain. Hopefully that makes sense, and maybe it'll come up when we're playing. And then we have to choose one of these. So let's see what they say. The O'Banion member. This is a talent. After you perform a gather resources action, you may test your strength. If you pass, you gain $2. Okay. And Old Boiler. It's a vehicle. After you perform a move action, you may deal 2 damage to 1 monster you are engaged with and 2 damage to this car. So basically you're running over the monster. I'm going to take Old Boiler. It just sounds fun. All right, we're gonna do that, and I don't value the money so much. I don't think he's gonna be spending a lot of gather resource actions. He's gonna be out fighting the whole game, and he has a kick butt weapon already, so it's not like we're gonna be going and trying to buy a better weapon. +4 attack is pretty darn good. Michael McGlynn. None of the players I played with the entire time I was at Arkham Knights picked this guy. So he's brand new for me. And there we go. We got our 3 guys set up. And for real now, we really are done with setup. And we are ready to start playing the game. If you're new to my videos, I usually explain rules as we go. And I only explain them when they're relevant. So I don't like to do here's the next 40 minutes. I am long-winded though, and sometimes I over-explain things, but we're gonna go ahead and get started next. I'll end this video, we'll start on the next, and I will start first by reading these 2 cards so we can get our flavor and get into this game. This is a very fun game. Like I said, I don't really like the Cthulhu universe. I think it's way overdone these days too. I know FFG, these games have been around forever, and everybody else is copying it more than FFG is. They're just still doing it. But I'm telling you, this is a fun game, and I'm very excited about it. I'm not as excited about soloing it. I actually enjoyed this with other players, but it's going to solo just fine. And so anyways, enough of that. I will hang up. Thanks for watching. Stay awesome. And I'm going to see you in a few seconds.